Estamos en uno de los podcasts más especiales y más deseados y más esperados por nosotros. Hoy tenemos a una persona maravillosa. Hoy tenemos a Mr. Igor Amadeus Cavalera. Hoy aquí en La Dosis. Así es que, primero que todo, mi amigo, bienvenido.
Igor Cavalera, Igor Amadeus Cavalera here on La Dosis. Oh my God, this is amazing. Igor, thank you so much for joining us today on La Dosis. We are super excited to have you, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, you're very welcome. And yeah, thank you for having me as well, man. I'm excited to talk about this album.
Amazing,
Perfect,
amazing.
perfect. Okay, first of all, we have your single Tumors on our website, ladosisradio.com. So I want you to know that you have your video on our website, okay?
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate the support.
We've been plugging Tumors. We have the video out there. We saw that you have a new single from last week.
Wow.
So we're going to start playing that one too, brother.
Oh, thanks so much, man. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Really proud of how those singles came out. Really stoked to unleash that on the world.
Ok, vamos a empezar con las primeras preguntas. Primero queremos saber cómo te fue en el último concierto que tuvo tu banda Go Ahead and Die. ¿Cómo estuvo ese concierto?
So first we wanted to ask, what was your most recent show that you performed live with Go Ahead and Die, and how did it go?
Funny enough, we've only ever played one show so far.
Oh, wow. Where was it?
It was in Phoenix, in my hometown. It was for we do this D-Lo Memorial Festival most years, and yeah, that was our first and only show we've done. That was back in 2021, and it went really awesome, honestly. Like, these songs are super aggressive live.
Yeah.
And they, you know what I mean, the speed and rawness of it all, I think, is much more appreciated seeing it on stage, you know, in a dark venue. So it was awesome. But there should be more shows coming up soon. We just announced some.
Very cool. Are there going to be North America shows, or just US, or what do you guys have planned coming up?
We're just starting in the US. It's like 10-week tour. Honestly, one of the longest tours I've ever done.
Wow.
But yeah, it hits pretty much all the states. You know what I mean? It's kind of a good first tour for us. And you know, we're just excited to get out there and do this thing, because yeah, we started during the pandemic. That was why we haven't really played any shows. You know, and then scheduling stuff with my dad is really difficult. He's in 4 bands. I'm in 3 or 4 bands. I forget how many I'm in sometimes. Yeah. But you know, we finally managed to buckle down and find the right time to do this. And, you know, with the new album just coming out, it's a perfect time. You know, we have a good set list coming up, and it's just, we're stoked, you know. But so far we've only done one, but in my opinion, it went really well.
Muy bien, muy bien. Qué bien, qué bien, qué bien. Ahora viene una de las preguntas que a mí más me gustó plantear, que es, obviamente muchísimas personas te preguntan qué se siente ser el hijo de Max Cavalera, y eso es entendible, pero la pregunta que yo quiero hacerte es, ¿qué tan increíble puede ser tener el apoyo de tu mamá, pero que tu mamá sea Gloria Cavalera y que sea la manager que te lleva de la mano a este sueño tan increíble? Creo que es como un sueño hecho realidad, porque realmente el que tu mamá te apoye, pero que sea tu manager, eso tiene que ser algo increíble. Entonces quiero que me cuentes un poquito qué sientes tú.
All right, so we're sure that you get asked all of the time what it's like to grow up with an icon like your dad, Max, right? What we wanted to ask was something kind of different, and no disrespect towards your dad whatsoever, because we know that he's Mount Rushmore, right? But yeah. What has it been like to have your mom, Gloria, support you throughout this entire process as well, and act as your manager, and to help like push your dreams forward? That's got to be amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah, no, it really is. I really can't say enough good things about my mom. You know, she's been working in music longer than my father, actually. She started doing local shows here in Phoenix back in the early 80s, you know what I mean? And she ended up managing bands like Sacred Reich and helping Flotsam and Jetsam get their deal. Mm-hmm. And you know what I mean? She was very influential in some of the thrash and punk bands from Phoenix back in that time. And you know, the way she works is just incredible. You
It's
know, she
amazing.
really never stops, and she loves what she does so much, you know, that you can tell she puts so much pride into it, and so much effort and so much time and everything. And, you know, it's been great, you know, and she's the general, you know what I mean? My
Sí.
dad is, you know, he's the artist,
What I
he's
have
the
to do?
creative
What I have to do
side.
today?
Yeah, exactly. But you know, my dad's the creative side of the family, and she's the one who kind of keeps the train rolling realistically. And you know, yeah, I mean, she's worked with us really well. You know, her relationship with Nuclear Blast is really good, and Nuclear Blast actually, you know, took really good care of us for the record. And you know, yeah, I mean, it's been a pleasure, and I've learned so much from her, you know. Not enough, like I said, not enough good things I could say.
Muy bien,
That's
muy bien.
awesome.
Importante, por favor, necesitamos que le digas a tu mamá que aquí desde Costa Rica le admiramos y le apreciamos muchísimo. Por eso queríamos hacer esta pregunta.
Very important that we have a huge admiration for your mom, and we're aware of like how influential she's been in so many facets of the metal scene, and she's gone just kind of like under the radar for the most part. Like she's not getting that due that she deserves. So we just wanted to say, you know, props to her.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, you know, I mean, sometimes when you're a manager, you know, you can get a bad rap because you got to be the tough guy sometimes, you know what I
Sí.
mean? But she really is the one who keeps it, you know, the circus moving. And, you know, yeah, sometimes you know, even being a woman in the metal scene is
Ujú.
very difficult. And, you know, she had to stand toe to toe in a very masculine work environment. And um, you know, she knows how to put her foot down, and I respect her for that, and I really admire her for that. That she's not afraid to go into a world that can be a bit misogynistic and you know, put down women a little bit, which you know,
Ujú.
Yep.
I don't think is cool. And she was always an example of that.
Muy bien.
You know, there's a lot of strong women in the metal community, and you know, she helped spearhead some of that, you know. So
Muy bien.
definitely mad props to her.
That's awesome.
Excelente, excelente. Ok, vamos con una de las siguientes preguntas que son muy, muy importantes. Cuando lo que queremos que te acuerdes es cuando eras un niño, ¿cuál fue esa primera canción que tú dijiste, wow, yo también quiero hacer lo mismo que hace mi papá? No necesariamente tiene que ser algo que hayas escuchado de tu papá, pero ¿cuál es esa canción que tú dijiste despertó esa pasión por la música?
So, I mean, you grew up with music all around you all of the time, right? But there had to have been perhaps one particular song or one particular musical moment that lit that fire where you're like, oh man, I really want to do this. Do you remember like when that moment was, or if there was a particular song? Didn't even have to be something that, you know, whatever that song was where you were like, oh shit, this is what I want to do for real.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's hard to pinpoint something exactly, you know. I mean, maybe my memory's a little foggy or this or that, but you know, at least for me and playing, you know, holding a guitar and wanting to figure it out was Ramones' We Want the Airwaves.
Oh,
That
cool.
opening riff,
Wow.
the slide, the
Sí.
opening that riff I tried to figure out for like 2 weeks. And when I finally played it right, I felt so, I don't know, I felt so accomplished, so proud of myself that I figured it out. You know, I figured out where to put my hands and
Ujú.
pick it correctly. And I mean, the Ramones were a huge band for me as a young kid. You know, it took a little while to get into Carcass and Cannibal Corpse, but at the beginning it was, you know, Ramones and Sabbath and bands like that. So yeah, when I figured out that was one of the first riffs I learned by ear. You know, maybe after I learned the Sabbath riff, I learned Ramones, and that was huge for me. You know what I mean? And I knew I wanted to come up with my own riffs right then.
Muy bien, muy bien.
And pretty
Very
much
cool.
haven't looked back.
All
Excelente,
right,
excelente,
awesome.
excelente, excelente. Bueno, la pregunta que sigue es muy similar con esto. ¿Cuál fue el primer instrumento que tocaste? ¿Fue realmente cantar? ¿Fue realmente tocar guitarra? ¿Fue sentarte en la batería? ¿Cuál fue el primer instrumento que tú practicaste?
Do you remember what the first instrument was that you said that you tried to do? Was it drums? Was it guitar? Even if you were 3, 4 years old, do you remember? Or was it singing? What was the first thing that you were like kind of drawn to?
The first thing that I remember is guitar.
Okay.
I wanted to play that pretty much from the beginning. But you know, that once again, that's kind of hard to tell because so much music around us when we were so young. You know what I mean? It can get a little, we were probably always messing around on something, but the first one that really stuck with me was guitar,
Okay.
and then I opened myself up to other things. I played drums for a while. I currently play bass in a band with Cavalera Conspiracy right now. And I'm very open to playing different things, but I do think guitar was the one that kind of resonated early on. And my brother was a drummer at a pretty young age, so I think we kind of decided on that dynamic early on. you know Kind of like my pops and my uncle. But yeah, guitar has always kind of been my favorite instrument.
Perfecto, perfecto. Muy bien,
Very
muy bien.
cool.
Ahora vamos a volvernos en el tiempo, vamos a volvernos por ahí al 2007. Vamos a ver si te acuerdas, porque tuvo que haber sido uno de los mejores momentos de tu vida. Cuéntanos qué sentiste cuando estuviste en Le Bataclan en París en el 2007, cuando fue ese primer show que tu padre te presentó al público y lo acompañaste con él en tarima.
So the first time from what we researched that you were ever on stage was with your father at Le Bataclan in Paris in 2007. And so if you could tell us what that was like what kind of experience that was for you.
Yeah, that you guys did do your research because that's completely correct. That was a completely random thing, actually. Like I said, when I was a preteen, 11 or 12, I was playing a lot of different instruments and messing around with a lot of different things. And I would sometimes go in after sound check and mess around on the instruments when no one was really paying attention. And I think that day, my folks would bring me on tour during summer break from school. So yeah, we were in Paris. We were at the Bataclan, beautiful venue, and I was sound checking and I was playing the opening beat to Troops of Doom. And
Oh.
I
Qué
think
bueno.
I think my uncle heard me, or someone heard me playing, and they were like, "Man, you can play that whole song. That's pretty cool. Do you want to do it tonight?" And I was like, kind of shocked. I'd never been on stage. I'd never, I'd been around a lot of music, but I'd never performed it. And I was terrified, but I said, "Yeah, let's do it." And it was on my uncle's drum kit. He has these huge toms.
Huge.
They were bigger than me. I had to stand up to hit them, actually, at a couple of different parts. And it was wild. You know what I mean? It unlocked something for me that I'd never felt, the type of adrenaline, a type of, I don't know, wild freedom kind of feeling, and, it was, yeah, that was another thing that kind of sparked it for me. And the Bataclan, that's a historic club.
Historic.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even before everything, and then there was a mass shooting there more recently. You know what I mean? I mean that club has a very crazy history, and yeah, the fact that was one of the first places I was on stage, it's always been a weird kind of nostalgia for me, that place.
Buenísimo, buenísimo. Qué chiva, qué
Cool.
chiva. Ok, ahora otra pregunta porque nos interesa muchísimo también el pasado, que es el que hace el presente. Que vimos por ahí que como en el 2011 tu primer grupo fue Mold Breaker. ¿Es así?
So it looks like your first band was Mold Breaker in 2011. How was that experience? And if you could tell us how Lodi Kong came about after.
Yeah, I mean, Mold Breaker was your very typical.
First
You
band.
know, we're teenagers and we're angry and we're not good at our instruments. Um, you know, and when you're young, it's hard to
I
decide on
had a band that calls Veneria when I was a teenager.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah, Nelson had a band called Veneria. Okay, right? It was like
yeah,
five dudes
Oh my
here. So I was like,
God.
okay,
right.
yeah.
But you know, it was your typical. We were just dumb and getting into smoking weed and doing things like that and being rambunctious. And we would play shows and a lot of our friends from like high school would come out and most of them didn't even really know about metal, but they would come out for our shows and go crazy. And it was just silly. Honestly, we only played 5 or 6 shows, recorded like 3 or 4 songs, I think. But it was like, you're young, you're getting in trouble. People go different ways. They get into different groups, and that band kind of just dissolved after a while. And Lodi Kong basically started as 3 members of that band. It was me, my
Okay.
brother, and the bass player in Mold Breaker, who was the first bass player in Lodi Kong. And yeah, I mean, Lodi Kong was very similar. We were just young and kind of stupid and honestly trying to annoy people and just be noisy and loud and hopefully get a rise out of somebody in the crowd.
Okay.
Muy bien, muy
Okay.
bien, muy bien. Ok, ahora vamos con otra pregunta, ya acercándonos un poco más al presente. Obviamente, al estar tan cerca de tu padre, qué sentiste en el momento que te dijeron que podías ser el bajista de Soulfly por ahí en el 2015?
So clearly, like even if you're, tied into the family, you still have to have the skills for you to be invited to be
Yeah.
the bass player for Soulfly in 2015.
Soulfly.
How did that feel when you were like, "No, you ready? You want to do this?"
Yeah, I mean, I've practiced so much because I consider this my craft and this is what I go for. And I mean, I definitely I don't even think I'm the most amazing player, but I'm definitely capable of learning songs and being able to roll notes and make them sound good. And I've always been more of a riff player than a soloist. The solo was never really what intrigued me into playing. It was more about figuring out rhythms and cool chords and just stuff like that. But anyways, yeah, I was young then. I was 19 or 20, I think, when I did that.
Wow.
And it was a lot of fun, and it progressed me as a musician. And it took a lot of practice to learn some of those songs. I mean, we even did a couple Sepple ones like a Rise and a part of Dead Embryonic Cells and stuff like that. Those are tough songs.
Sí.
So it definitely improved me as a bass player. But at that age, I think it was a little too much free time and power having a roadie. You know what I mean? I think I was having a little too much fun, if you get what I'm picking up.
Natural though, that's your
Sí,
age,
sí.
like what are you gonna do? Like
So I actually they asked me to be the full-time player, and I was like, I was like, no, I think I should just work on my own things. As much as I loved it and as awesome as it was and everything, there was a lot of freedom and it was big shows, and I don't think I was ready to take that much responsibility in a band. I was definitely more concerned with partying and being honestly a shithead during that time.
19, what
But
are you gonna do, bro?
maturity takes a little while. You know what I mean? And
Claro, claro.
it was still awesome to do. And they ended up going with Mike Leone, and he was a great dude and fit in really well. And I was happy that they found somebody you know, because I was just like, this is a little, it was a little much for me at that time. But I loved it, you know, playing some of those shows was crazy, and some of them were huge European festivals, and it, you know, it opened my eyes to a bigger style of playing. You know, I was definitely more used to just playing small clubs and venues and things like that. And yeah, doing those festivals opened me up to the idea that yeah, this music can be played for a lot of people, and it can, you know what I mean? It can go somewhere, basically.
Claro, claro, claro.
Very cool.
Por ahí también estuvimos leyendo, ¿verdad? Entre tantas cosas que, como dices tú, que tienes muchos grupos, ¿hay algún plan de que continúe el proyecto de Healing Magic?
So with all of your different projects and everything, do you have any plans to continue healing magic?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Muy
You know,
bien, muy bien.
Healing Magic is, you know, it's just two of us. It's me and Johnny. You know, it's kind of our baby, we call it, you know. And you know, we put out one album last year, and that's actually the first installment of kind of a saga, I guess you could call it. It's a 4 album concept that will kind of tie together. Each album is basically a different element, goes into this kind of fictional story through the lyrics. I won't dive too deep on it. It's pretty nerdy stuff, but you know, yeah, that's actually one of my favorite projects to work on because it's one of the most experimental things I do, and it's I don't know, you know, working just one on one with a drummer, you know, just riffs and drums is such a cool thing because we can get so tight with each other without having to rely on 2 other people to fill it out. You know, we have a huge guitar sound and huge drum sound, and it's a really fun thing. But yeah, you know, coming up with some of that sludgy, slow, doomy, psychedelic stuff is one of the funnest things to do, in my opinion.
Muy bien, muy
Very
bien.
cool.
Excelente, excelente. Ok, ahora vamos a hablar del nuevo proyecto, el nuevo bebé, como estábamos ahí hablando. Vamos a hablar un poco de Go Ahead and Die. ¿Cómo fue que se formó y cuáles son los planes? Y antes de que Lu haga la traducción, también quiero felicitarte porque los riffs del disco son brutales. Gente, si ustedes no han escuchado Go Ahead and Die, tienen que escucharlo. Tiene unos riffs brutales con toda la firma Cavalera.
So Nelson is a super fan. I love Go Ahead and Die, but Nelson's been like, oh my God, this band is amazing, riff driven, super badass thrash. Tell us about how Go Ahead and Die formed and what kind of plans you have for the band.
Yeah, like I said, it was a pandemic band. We actually started working on the music mid lockdown, I guess you could say, you know, when the world shut down for a little while a couple years ago. But yeah, I mean, in reality, it was something we talked about for a couple of years before that. You know, my dad had kind of wanted to revisit the like earlier sounds, you know what I mean? The kind of crust influenced thrashy death kind of first wave 80s kind of stuff, you know what I mean? And I'm really into that too. That was an interest we shared, you know, when I was a teenager, getting into heavier music. So, you know, yeah, it was something we talked about for a while, but just never got to execute, I guess you could say. And the pandemic actually gave us the opening to do it with no touring and no shows. And, you know, basically our whole industry shutting down for a little while. That was when we came up with it, and we were isolated, and you know, it was an election year. We were all pretty angry about something or other and getting on each other's nerves from being in the house too much. And you know, just there it was an emotional year for everybody, I think. And you know, we just kind of poured that into this record, wrote and recorded it in a matter of 6 or 7 months, you know. And you know, it was fun. And then, you know, yeah, you know, world opened back up, things kind of went back to normal. You know, we decided to do a second record, and that was when we started writing Unhealthy Mechanisms, which is the new record that actually just came out. You know, it's been fun. You know, it was a project at first, but I think it's turned into a full band, and that was cool because it happened naturally. It was a very, you know, there was a flow to things. It was like, let's put this record out, see how people like it. You know, it got a good response, so we were like, okay, let's do a second one, and you know, second one's out now, and that got a great response as well. So, you know, the whole evolution of the band has been really smooth, and you know, people seem interested in it. And you know, I think for my dad, it's really cool that he's going back to kind of his early days a little bit with it. You know, it's definitely closer to morbid visions or schizophrenia than it is anything else that he's done before. You know, so it's kind of a bridge between the generations. You know, the younger kids like me who are into death metal and into stuff like that, and the older generation that kind of founded it. You know, it's kind of cool that we're bringing that gap together. And you know, the band has just been really fun and really you know, positive the whole way through, you know, so we're
Claro,
really
claro, claro.
excited to keep doing stuff.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Buenísimo, buenísimo.
That's awesome.
Bueno, estaba abriendo el Spotify porque ayer que estaba reunido con el primo Lu, pasamos toda la noche escuchando Go Ahead and Die. Y creo que el siguiente sencillo es Drug on Cop, ¿verdad?
So yeah,
Para que
we
nos
were
hables un poquito
listening.
de eso.
Yeah, we were listening all going through all the Go Ahead and Die stuff last night again, and we were listening to the new single, and that's exactly what Nelson and I were saying. Was like, wow, this sounds like old school early Sepultura, but different because there's this modern vibe to it, but it's
Exactly.
really just it's really great. How did that song come about, and how did Tumors come about?
Yeah, those were both fun songs to make, and they're actually very different songs. You know, Tumors is more of a like groovy death metal song, and Drugo Cop's more of a punk song, honestly. And you know, none of these songs really had total intentions. You know, it was kind of like we'd come up with a cool riff and then we'd just start building upon that. You know, there wasn't necessarily a plan like, oh, this will be D beat, oh, this will be death metal, this and that. You know, and those songs they're singles for a reason. They're really catchy, and you know, even me as a listener, it gets stuck in my head, and it you know, it's weird to have like a death metal sounding song stuck in your head, but there's a lot of hooks in it and a lot of catchy stuff, honestly. And Drogo Cop is kind of the same, you know, and they're fun songs, you know. They have a lot of crazy riffs and weird switches, and
Muy buenos riffs.
they're fun to play, you know, and that's kind of the vibe with this band, you know. It's crossover. You know, one song could be totally D beat, crusty, like punk type of stuff. The next one can be all blast beats and, you know, tremolo picking and fast riffs and stuff like that, you know. And that's just kind of the dynamic we wanted to mix. And yeah, exactly. Give it a modern, you know, a little bit of a modern production without going overboard, still keeping it raw, still keeping it uncut and, you know, live sounding. And that's really important to us. You know, we wanted to come across as four people playing some brutal, loud music. And I think that's exactly what it sounds like.
Ya casi vamos con las últimas preguntas y una de ellas es, entre tanta música que uno escucha y disfruta y más tú que es desde la cuna estás con tanto música alrededor, ¿hay alguna canción en específico que tú hayas dicho, esa canción me hubiera encantado haberla escrito yo porque es impresionante?
Igor, when you think of all of the music that you've ever heard, which has been since you were in the crib, right? Regardless of genre, is there one track that like you say to yourself, one in particular, like, oh man, I wish I wrote that song?
Yeah, I mean, basically the whole first two Celtic Frost records.
Oh, sí.
You know, I mean, I think those are riffs that inspired every type of metal when people heard them. And even for me, I heard them probably 25 years after they came out. And well, maybe not that long, probably about 15 years after it came out, but you know, they just stuck with me immediately. and you know, like the Crypto Rays riff, dun 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 dun, like that
Brutal.
alone, every band on the planet ripped that off and came up with it, and it's the simplest riff ever, and that's what I love about it. It's so effective. So yeah, I mean, basically any Tom G Warrior riff.
Sí.
Very
Muy bien,
cool.
muy bien. Y ahora sigamos con la última pregunta que dice, sabemos que eres muy fan de Stephen King. ¿Cuál es tu libro favorito?
So we also heard that you're a huge Stephen King fan. What's your favorite Stephen King book?
It's tough, you know what I mean? It's like asking your favorite
Sí.
album of a favorite band. But I mean, I gotta say probably Pet Cemetery.
Okay.
I think that one is just written amazingly,
Uf.
and it's just one of the scariest
Ujú.
books ever. And I don't know, it's very demented, very,
Sí.
very, very. I don't know, it puts you in a crazy headspace when you read it, and yeah, I don't know, I love that book. That was something that I read when I was younger, and it just instantly made me fall in love with him. That's why he's the king, you know.
Yep.
Muy bien, muy bien, muy bien. Vamos a ir con tres preguntas rapiditas personales. Una es, cuando sales de tour, ¿hay algún tipo de comida que a ti te guste muchísimo, que tú digas, yo tengo que pasar a este lugar a comer? Es una cuestión así, nada más curiosidad de cosas personales.
So just these three questions to close are just more personal questions about you, Igor.
Yeah.
In all of your touring and all of the places that you've been to, what kind of food do you find, or first off, what do you eat while you're on tour? Like, as far as like, do you have like a whole nutritional diet plan that you have when you're out there? And is there a particular food that when you start setting up like a tour where you're like, oh my God, I hope we go here so I can eat blank?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I'm very into cooking, and I'm very into recipes and learning how to make stuff and things like that. So I'm open-minded. I honestly, my whole plan when I tour is to eat regional, you know. So whatever is the popular dish in that area, that's probably what I'm going to try and find.
Ok.
Nice.
You know, if I'm in Louisiana, I'm going to go get gumbo and crawfish and stuff like that. You know, if I'm in here in Arizona, I'm going to go get Mexican food. You know what I
Wow.
mean? I'm going to go,
Sí.
it's a regional thing, you know what I mean?
Ujú.
And you know, I like to be open-minded with what I eat. You know, I don't have too many dietary restrictions. You know, I can kind of get away with eating a lot of stuff. Spicy food, I definitely like.
Nice.
But yeah, you know, I mean, I have favorites everywhere. It would be hard to pinpoint. And yeah, I'd love to try any type of Costa Rican dish. I'm sure you guys have a lot of
Sí.
awesome stuff for sure. But yeah, so that's kind of what I do. Like whatever the
Ok.
people in the area eat, I want to try that, you know.
Ok, ok, ok.
Very cool.
Eso es también una pregunta personal. Bueno, ya la gente, yo le mostré que yo estuve escuchando, lo último que escuché fue Go Ahead and Die. ¿Qué ha sido lo último que has escuchado en tu Spotify hoy? Hoy en la mañana cuando te despertaste, ¿qué escuchaste? No importa el género, ¿qué escuchaste?
So, Igor, what was the last thing that you heard musically? Doesn't matter what genre, doesn't matter what it was. What was the last music that you just heard?
I mean, let's see. I'll pull up my Spotify. I was listening to Acid Witch.
Acid Witch.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
It's spooky heavy metal for Halloween time.
Nice.
Okay. Voy a escucharlo hoy porque no lo he escuchado. Vamos a seguirlo.
We're going to give it a listen for sure.
Quería hacerte otra pregunta. Creo que tengo memoria de que sí, pero ¿has venido a Costa Rica de vacaciones?
So
¿O con
we
tu
think
papá de
that you
trabajo?
might have that you may have been in Costa Rica, but have you ever been to Costa Rica before for even vacation?
I think I went there once. Yeah,
Sí, yo creo que una vez. Estoy casi seguro que
I
sí.
went on a South American tour with Cavalera Conspiracy.
Okay.
Estoy seguro que sí.
And
sí.
yeah, we hit there. We hit Brazil, Argentina, Chile, all these places.
Sí.
Yeah,
Buenísimo.
so I have been there before, and I'd love to go again. Beautiful country for sure.
Sí,
Great,
Awesome.
great
Awesome.
weather.
Sí, aquí el clima es increíble, la verdad. Y bueno, con eso nos despedimos. Gracias, Igor, por acompañarnos. No me quedan más palabras que desearte muchísimos éxitos. Se ve que sos un tipazo espectacular. Por favor, un fuerte abrazo a tu mamá, que ha hecho un trabajo increíble, y por supuesto a tu papá, que ha sido la inspiración para muchísimos que somos tan amantes de la música. Solo queremos desearte lo mejor y que sepas que aquí en Costa Rica hay un par de locos que te vamos a apoyar un montón, y todo lo que necesites aquí vamos a estar siempre, ¿ok?
Igor, thank you so much for taking the time with us today. We are so grateful and humbled by you. And you're awesome, man. You're just a legitimately awesome human being. And we're very, very happy to have had this time with you. We want to send hugs to your mom and to your dad, who have been inspirational on so many levels to metalheads everywhere across the globe. Please know that we here at Dosis are here for all support of Igor Amadeus, for everything you got going on, brother. And thank you so much. We hope that we can play a role in bringing you down to Costa Rica sometime soon.
Oh, definitely. That would be amazing. And thank you guys so much for talking too. It was a pleasure. I had a lot of fun for sure.
Awesome,
Eso.
brother. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Pura vida. Nos vemos.
Yep. Have a good one.